Okay, we have been talking about the debate from Wednesday night, the first Republican primary debate. Of course, watching this large field of candidates hoping for the nomination. Good luck, right? Niall Stanage, columnist for The Hill, of course, joining us in studio. We're excited. You were in the room, and you actually have this column out this morning talking about the biggest winners and losers. So we want to touch on that. Was Mike Pence as big a surprise to everyone in the room as he was to so many at home? We didn't really see that coming.
Yeah, I think he was. I mean, he had been rather quiet in terms of his candidacy. He had struggled, Adrienne, to even meet the donor threshold as a former vice president to even qualify for the debate. So for him to show the kind of aggression and fieriness that he showed was quite surprising. We maybe should note, people forget Mike Pence is a former talk radio guy from years and years ago.
Oh, wow.
So he knows how to communicate.
Yeah, but, you know, he hasn't necessarily resonated, despite that communication background. Let's talk about the most targeted candidate of the night, Vivek Ramaswamy. Let's watch.
Let me explain it to you, Vivek, if I can. I'll go slower this time.
I sometimes struggle with the reading comprehension.
Look, I was a House conservative leader before it was cool. I actually pushed a Deficit Reduction Act. That was the last time we actually reduced the national debt in the United States. Now is not the time for on-the-job training. We don't need to bring in a rookie.
Why are we in this mess? Part of it, and a major reason, is because how this federal government handled COVID-19 by locking down this economy. It was a mistake. It should have never happened.
Now, I do think that DeSantis came off strong there, and I think a lot of Americans can feel the pain from those isolated moments. But in terms of targeting Vivek Ramaswamy, the way that not just Vice President Pence did, but several of the other people on stage, is that going to really work to dim his shine because he's been doing so well in the polls?
One thing I would say about that is it's a sort of backhanded compliment to how well he has been doing in the polls, right? I mean, if someone's no threat, then there's no need to attack them. But we saw all these candidates really piling on Vivek Ramaswamy. So on one hand, it is testament to his surprising strength. On the other hand, there were moments that I thought he looked a bit shaky.
Yeah, well, and it's also interesting because President Trump was not in the room. Perhaps that gave Pence a little more oomph. You know what I'm saying? Like he was feeling lifted because there was nobody really to compete with.
Or in Trump's case, to kind of squish him as he's prone to do, you know.
Squish him like a bug.
Well, to just sort of stomp on all these claims and to be that very forceful
bombastic
figure. Yeah, bombastic figure.
Yeah. A lot of the networks, I was watching just coverage from various news agencies, and all of them agreeing that DeSantis was one of the biggest losers from last night. Do you think that Republican voters feel that way? Or do you think there was a little less interest from DeSantis himself? You know, he said time and time again, this is a two-man race. And without that front runner in the room, did you kind of step back? Did he step back from the real debate?
I think he did lack maybe a bit of energy, but to the point about the two-person race, he really needed, I think, to be the dominant figure on that stage last night because he is positioning himself as the person who really could be the nominee, is the most plausible nominee. If you had never watched anything in this race before, you wouldn't necessarily think he stood out much from anybody else. And that's a problem because of the way his candidacy is sort of founded.
Yeah, the posturing is so important. Let's talk about President Trump. That Tucker Carlson interview, much discussed ahead of time. Of course, that was posted on Twitter, a.k.a. X, last night at the same time as that debate. And Carlson actually noted something about potentially the candidates, or rather the violence that could come from people who were critics of President Trump. Let's take a listen.
Are you worried that they're going to try and kill you? Why wouldn't they try and kill you, honestly?
They're savage animals. They are people that are sick, really sick. You have great people in the Democrat Party. You have great people that are Democrats. Most of the people in our country are fantastic, and I'm representing everybody. I'm not just Republicans or conservatives. I represent everybody. I'm the president of everybody. But I've seen what they do. I've seen the lengths that they go to.
So, I mean, that's a pretty strong question. You know, are you afraid of being hurt or killed even by people who oppose your running? And then if he was to get reelected again, has that been discussed much or kind of swept under the rug?
Do you mean the overall question of whether Trump would be hurt? I think it has been discussed as part of this broad upsurge that we're unfortunately seeing in violent rhetoric and the leading of that violent rhetoric to threats against people, including former President Trump, but also including President Biden and others. It's a very ominous sign.
Yeah, and we were talking about this reporting, more public officials receiving those kind of death threats and threatening calls. I think it's something that a lot of public figures have at top of mind.
And we don't know how many public officials are discouraged from running, or people who would be good public officials think it's just too dangerous.
It's just not worth it.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.